Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. I hope you've had a good day so far. London, March the 28th, 2026. Just picture this. The streets are flooded. A river of people, placards, including support for Gaza and the late Ayatollah. Passion is flowing through the heart of the capital. From Park Lane to Whitehall, a coalition of over 100 charities, trade unions and campaign groups has assembled. They're marching against what they call a rising tide of hate, division and far-right politics.
We stand here for love and hope.
The organisers, the Together Alliance, are calling it the biggest demonstration ever against the far right in British history. They claim 500,000 people are here. Police estimates are a little more cautious, closer to 50,000, but the message is clear. A significant part of the nation is mobilised, angry and afraid. Speakers take to the stage. They talk of fighting fascists, standing up to racists and countering a narrative of fear. The Green Party leader, Zach Polanski, or as is popularly known, the Tit Whisperer, tells the roaring crowd, days like this are here to stay. Send a message to Tommy Robinson, to Nigel Farage and to those who appease them. We are unstoppable. If the Green Party are unstoppable, God help us in the UK. So picture it. The crowd cheers. The enemy has been named. But that raises a question. In a protest defined by its opposition, where was the opposition? Where was the far right? The march was peaceful, but for 20-odd arrests, most of them were reportedly pro-Palestine activists detained for supporting a banned organisation. There were no major clashes, no far-right counter-protests to be found. In a country with no recent history of far-right terror attacks and with no major far-right marches for the last 6 months, they were fighting an enemy that just didn't show up. So what if the real story isn't the one being told from the stage? What if the evidence from this existential threat isn't quite what it seems? This is the story of how tens of thousands marched against a phantom menace. To get the energy on London streets, you have to understand the narrative. For months, a sense of crisis has been brewing. The protest was framed as a direct response to the unprecedented growth of the far-right organisations. Sabi Dalu, a key organiser, even said that the size of their demonstration had successfully intimidated the far-right away from appearing. The far-right haven't been appearing for months and months and months. The rhetoric was powerful, painting a picture of a nation at a crossroads, teetering on the edge of a dark path. Placards read, "No to racism, no to Trump, and refugees welcome." Chants of "Say it loud, say it clear, refugees are welcome here" echoed through the streets. This felt more like a protest, and it felt more like a moral crusade. The movement was backed by an impressive roster of celebrities, politicians and public figures. Musicians like Billy Bragg, if you can still call him a musician, Jessie Ware and members of UB40 performed. Actors like Steve Coogan and David Harewood lent their support. Politicians from Labour, the Greens and beyond, including former Labour MP Diane Abbott, stood in solidarity. This wasn't a fringe movement, it was the voice of the cultural and political establishment. And if you ask me, it was an excuse for the far left to come out and voice their opinion. And the message was unified. Britain is facing a mortal threat from the far right, embodied by two men, Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson. They were cast as the chief architects of a new hateful politics stoking the land. The march was the righteous pushback, a nation drawing a line in the sand. But to really test that claim, we need to look past the protest and examine the villains themselves. First, Nigel Farage. In early 2026, his party, Reform UK, was a genuine political phenomenon. Some polls were predicting that he could win over 2,000 council seats in the upcoming local elections. At points over the previous year, the party has even been leading in national polls, peaking at 31% in some surveys, well ahead of the traditional parties. One protester who travelled from Bath captured the mood of the march, telling reporters he was worried about Reform's rise, saying it's all the same lies as Brexit. The protesters branded this a far-right movement. Reform's platform is undeniably populist and nationalist. Their laser focus on tackling immigration is central to their appeal, with polling showing it as a key issue for their voters. But does that automatically equate to the sinister fascism the march was organised to oppose? Farage's success lies not in street violence or extremism, but in electoral politics. His appeal is to a deep vein of public discontent. His voters aren't a shadowy cabal that are, according to YouGov analysts from early 2076, older, more likely to be in manual occupations, and overwhelmingly voted for Brexit. They're motivated by a feeling that the traditional parties have failed them, while critics decry his rhetoric as divisive. His supporters see him as the only one speaking their language. He operates not on the fringes, but from the heart of a significant and vocal part of the electorate. To label his broad political movement as simply far-right is to ignore the complex reasons for its appeal. It's a political insurgency, not a back-alley hate gang. Then there is Tommy Robinson. If Farage is the political operator, Tommy Robinson is the street activist. He's the figurehead for a more controversial brand of politics. His last major rally, the United Kingdom March in September 2025, drew a massive crowd estimated to between 110 and 150,000 people. It was described as the largest far-right mobilisation in British history. He can mobilise large numbers. But what's his actual influence in 2026? For all the fear his name evokes, his movement has organised no major marches in the UK for a full 6 months. In the weeks leading up to the anti-far-right protest, his activity was focused abroad, touring the United States. While the protest rhetoric involved a grave national threat, there is no record of recent far-right terrorist plots or attacks in Britain to justify such language. The physical threat, it seems, has been conspicuously absent. And this brings us to the central puzzle. A massive, passionate and well-organised protest against an enemy that seems to be somewhere else entirely. Farage was busy with mainstream politics, and Tommy Robinson was, by all accounts, not on the scene. And this is the heart of the phantom menace theory. In the absence of any far-right street movements to confront with any violent attacks to respond to, what if the main point of the march wasn't to defeat the real and present danger, but to create one itself? It is not the far-right that have been stabbing little girls at dance classes, or blowing up little girls at an Ariana Grande concert, or attacking our young girls in the streets, or being involved in grooming young girls. Politics needs an enemy. A simple, unifying villain is the most powerful tool for mobilisation, and the far-right is the perfect villain. It allows a diverse and sometimes contradictory coalition to unite under one banner. On March the 28th, trade unionists marched alongside climate activists, celebrities, marched with socialist politicians. What unites them? The fight against a common foe. As one organiser from Friends of the Earth put it, racism is a weapon of mass distraction. So consider the aftermath. The organisers declared victory. They claimed they had intimidated the far-right into silence. They had proven that hope would triumph over hate. But what was really achieved? The political polling for reform didn't collapse. there is no evidence that Tommy Robinson's influence has diminished. So what did the march achieve? With stumbling success to energise its own base, it provided a day of righteous purpose, of solidarity and song. It reinforced a worldview where the lines between good and evil are starkly drawn. The protest wasn't a battle against a physical enemy on the streets of London, it was a battle for a narrative. It was a story told by the marchers to themselves. The evidence shows that Farage's political force is very real, tapping into legitimate grievances held by millions. The evidence also shows that Robinson is a figure capable of mobilising large, volatile crowds. But does the sum of these parts equal the existential menace described on the protest stages? In a period with no organised far-right marches on the streets and no related terrorist activity, does it justify invoking historical fascism? When you dig into it, a different story starts to take shape. Not one of an imminent far-right takeover, but of a political and cultural establishment creating a simplified villain to rally against. The far-right has become a phantom menace of an all-encompassing term for a host of complex social anxieties. The fight against this phantom isn't about changing minds or winning political arguments. It's about reinforcing the moral certainty of one's own side. It's a performance of virtue, a declaration of who is good and who is evil. Consider this: the real danger may not be the far right itself, but the consequences of chasing it. When politics becomes a holy war against a cartoon villain, there's no room for debate, nuance or understanding. Every disagreement becomes a battle between love and hate, hope and fear, and in the country already deeply divided, this phantom menace might just be the thing that pulls us further apart. If you appreciate investigations that look past the headlines, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. And let us know in the comments who you think benefits most from creating a phantom menace. Until next time, thanks for joining us, thanks for watching, enjoy the rest of your day and take care.